Welcome to episode 2 of Wrinkled Wisdom. Today we get to sit with Joanne Hemming, or people that know her call her Grammy. You're going to hear just an incredible story of hardships, faith, commitment to family, these miracles that have happened for her. And she just is such a beautiful human for her community. So many people reached out to me that knew her and were so excited about this because she's just a light wherever she goes, she shines. Comment on this, what you think of her story and how you can relate, or maybe how you will grow from this or learn something from it about appreciating things. And we can't wait to get more stories for everybody to listen to and hear this perspective of life. It's such an honor to sit here and listen to people tell these stories and these hardships that I could never comprehend. The people who consume this content, you can help us get these stories out to people by liking, subscribing, and commenting and letting us know how it impacted you. We really want to drive this platform to make this generation feel proud of what they did. I don't think they're so humble, and we really take what we have for granted. I think not everybody, but a lot of us do. And I'm excited to see where this goes, and the people who consume this content can help drive it. You can help us do that. We'd really appreciate it. I know the families that are doing this and the individuals who I've sat down with, they just feel so proud, and it's such a beautiful thing to see, and you can help them feel proud. So thank you for consuming this content and helping us drive our mission forward. We look forward to sharing their stories with you. Thank you for coming.
Oh, they're so excited.
Yeah, I bet.
Oh, Casey called twice before we got gone this morning. And
yeah.
he just thinks it's just great to have a grandma that's so old.
I bet he does.
I flew down and played for his wedding when he got married. And all his friends were waiting for our grandma to come, all humped over. And they were so good. They were all there to help me. Were they ever shocked when they saw his grandma?
Yeah.
He loves to jam. He comes till his fingers are sore when he leaves. Him and I play. I can't read a note, but I can play the piano, and he gets his guitars, and we just have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
He wants to come at the fair this year, but I don't know if he's going to be able to come because, he has a little boy now.
Right.
And he's a really good father.
Yeah.
He's a really good father.
Well, he's a good person in general.
I was really kind of worried about him, but he is really a good father.
Yeah.
And he just loves his little boy. He named him after my husband. He passed away 2 years ago. Him and Casey were really close. And he named his little boy Elmer.
Oh, yeah.
I tried to get him, I begged him not to, I don't like that name. But he wouldn't listen. He went ahead and gave it anyhow. And he just loves him.
Yeah. And so for people that don't know who are talking about with Casey, could you tell them a little bit about Casey for the people? I think because he has he's achieved some pretty good milestones. Or I can do it. I mean, I know.
You go ahead. You know more about him probably than I do.
Well, so people that are going to view this, we're talking about her grandson, Casey Timmer, who happens to be a songwriter in Nashville. And he co-wrote the song Yeah Boy with Kelsey Ballerini. And I think it hit number 2. So you should definitely get a chance to go check out Casey Timmer. It's Keesy and then Timmer. And I think he got his music inspiration probably from you. Is there
Yes.
some truth to that?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
How proud are you to feel, or how proud do you feel to see what he's accomplished?
Oh, man, it's I'm really proud of him because really his dad was a great piano player, but he was real fancy. There's a difference between that and the way that I play. And Casey didn't like really the way that his dad played, and he fell in love with Grandma. And he just started out, just went to Nashville, right after he graduated, and it was really sad to see him go all the miles down there, and he's just stayed down there, and he's done so good. But everything and everywhere you look in his house is music.
Yeah.
Music, music, music everywhere. And he really loves it. He just loves it. And he's got now that he can play the piano quite a little bit.
Yeah.
He's doing pretty good on it.
Well, and he's a human jukebox.
He is doing.
He can just play any song. You know, I saw him at the fair. Oh man, maybe 4 years ago when he came and played, and it was just I hadn't seen him, you know, since I was in high school, and we kind of kept in touch. And you know, that's one thing I get from those small towns like Goldendale and Glenwood, and you know, places like where we lived, where a lot of people just get together. The families stay together close, and they, you know, if you know each other's family, you just appreciate each other. And I think that that's the beauty of it. And especially when people get together over music over the years.
Oh, he loves the Goldendale. He just loves the Goldendale.
Yeah.
And he wants to come back so bad. Hopefully, maybe in 2 years, when Elmer will start kindergarten. That is his plans now, that he wants to come back. And
Oh, great.
have him a little studio there.
Yeah, great.
And I hope he can.
Yeah, I do too.
Because it's all about music. He's really into music.
Yeah. So going back, so can we look at what, so if you don't mind saying, I know it's, you know, my grandma always told me not to ask a lady her age, but when were you born and where were you born? And
I was born in 1931 in Gate, Oklahoma. That's about the center of Oklahoma. It's about 35 miles on east to Wichita, Kansas. And we were very, very, very poor. And when I was about, I think I was 5, I was going to turn 6 that fall because I was going to start to school. And we had the big drought and the big no water, and the dirt was so bad you could not even open your mouth. And mostly the way that we lived back there was each family just kind of grew what they needed each year, and that's what, you know, we lived on. But when the drought and that hit, it hit us pretty hard. And my dad had a sister that had came to Washington State about a year before, and the drought was going on then, and she just kept begging. I'm sure they had phones, but if they did, we didn't have any money, you know, to get one. But once in a while, she would write a letter and beg him to bring his family to Washington. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And my dad would go out, and he would always take his hand across the back of his cows. They had a bone back there, and every day it got a little bit higher, you know, because there was no food to feed the kids, let alone the animals. And one day he came in, and it was so bad that to go from the house to the barn, he had to put a rope, tie it on into the house to the barn for us to hang on to know how to get back to the house. That's how bad it was. And it would just fill your mouth and your eyes, you know, just like you'd take Elmer's glue.
Yeah.
And, it was just terrible. And my daddy went out to do the chores that morning, and my mom had a great big old black skillet. And we had, well, it was like welfare, they call now, because they have a fancy name for it. But then it was WPA, they helped you. And they gave you potatoes and flour. And my mom knew how to make biscuits out of water, so she would make biscuits and do the potatoes. Sometimes they were cold black because she'd forget, you know, and cook them too much. Sometimes they were just right, and other times you could hardly eat them. But we didn't complain because, I mean, there was no snack bag, you know, anything like they have now. I mean, it was just your potatoes. And my poor old dad went out that one day, and I don't know if the one cow would eat all of the corn that he had, because I told you the wind was so bad, you know, you couldn't even stand up. Or if maybe all the cows got a little bit of it to eat, but he went out and they couldn't even stand. They were so bad that he just had to get rid of them. Well, in those days, they didn't have fancy gun cabinets like they do now. They just put their guns, they would hang them, you know, up on the wall.
Yeah.
And I was only 5. I was going to turn 6 in the fall, but I can remember him getting his gun off of the wall and going out and shooting his 5 or 6 head of cattle, whatever he had. And he came in, Mom was in there, and she was cooking her potatoes in this big old skillet. And he came in, and he always called her Mama. And he said, how long would it take you to get ready to go to the state of Washington? We didn't even have a car.
Yeah.
And my mom, she didn't know what to say. And he said, there's nothing to feed our animals and even nothing to feed our families. We have to leave. So he gave her about two hours for her to get ready for us to leave. And I mean, it was awful. We were, just little kids. And my uncle didn't have a new pickup, but he had a pretty good pickup, and so he offered to take us to Washington. And Mom, she gets the pickup that she could get in all filled for us to go. And guess what? When we got ready to go, there was no place for the kids to sit. There was Mom and Dad, my uncle in the front, but no place for the 4 little children. We were 5, 7, and 9, and 11. And so my dad went in, and in them days, everybody had an ironing board because there was no, ready-wear stuff. You had to iron your clothes because you put your clothes through an old wringer and it would kind of stick them together, and you'd kind of have to shake it a little bit, We had an ironing board, and our iron consisted of a brick. Do you know what that is? You use it in building and that. And Daddy would put it down the old wood stove and just get it so hot you'd think he was going to burn everybody just had one room to live in. And then he would take that brick and put it in a gunny sack. And we would do our ironing with that brick. Oh, yeah, we got burnt lots of times.
Oh, wow.
Lots of times we got burnt, with our iron. And so he goes in, and we had no idea what he was going to go in because we were ready to go to Washington. He comes out, he had went in, and he had cut the legs off of our ironing board. And you won't believe this, but it was just almost like he had went to Home Depot or someplace like that and ordered that seat special.
Yeah.
It just went down just perfect in the back of that pickup. And here was us 4 little kids. There was no such thing as a tarp to put over your head. They didn't have them in this. No coolers to take water or anything like that. We didn't even have electricity. We started out on our trip, which was 1,800 miles to the state of Washington because my daddy's sister was out here and was doing really good. We had to sit there. One day it parched us. They call it burning now, but in them days they called it parched us. It burned us poor little kids so bad that we couldn't even lay down on our bed that night. We just had to sit up. It had burned us so bad. And now they have these wonderful state parks that you can go along the roadside and park and this and that. But in them days, it was just like you'd go out to your grandpa's wheat field that he'd cut, with your stubs sticking up in that. And that's like the road was. And we were going down the highway, which are freeways now. And if you had to relieve yourself, you'd just stop and get out along the road and go and get back in the car, and you'd go.
Yeah.
Here was us four little kids up there in the back of that pickup, It was a 4-day drive. We had to go through that. One day it rained, and the one day it parched us real bad. It burned us so bad. But we still had our taters. Mom did our taters 3 times a day because that's all we had to eat.
Yeah.
She didn't have any grease to cook them in. She had to do them in water. We ate it, and we were happy that we had it. So when we got to Washington, we went to Wapato because that's where my daddy's sister was at. And you know where that is. You go through Tottenham, then you go on up 7 miles, and you go to Wapato. Well, we weren't the only family that was like. There was lots of families that that were that you were poor when the drought started, and it just hit you hard. We got to Wapato, and they had the entry where you went there, kind of like a half a rainbow for you to come, and it had a big sign on it and said "Welcome." Well, you look ahead a little bit, and I saw this great big thing. Well, it looked a mile long to me. I'm sure it wasn't, but I was only 5, and I was going to turn 6 in the fall. And it was a great big, nowadays you would call them tents and that, but they had they had fixed these places for the people like us that was coming to stay, and there was nothing but just thick plastic they had put together, and they had made everybody that went got one room, 10 by 10. It didn't make any difference if you had one child or five, you got this one room. You did your cooking, you did your sleeping, you did all of this in your one room. And we were really lucky when we got ours, because we were kind of facing a produce, where you now they're fancy sheds where they got refrigerators and that, but they didn't have those in that days. And they had kind of a wagon. I'm sure they'd made it for the poor people like us. But when they would leave at night, us four kids would go over there, and we'd just fill our pockets full of all of these fruit and bring it back, because Oklahoma didn't have anything like that. And we had no ice chests or anything, so we lived on the fruit. We were there about a month. We lived in this. We thought it was great because we didn't even know what a shower was. But they had these open showers that you got to go to a little office and get your coupon once a week, and you got to take a shower once a week and wash your hair and take a shower. Can you imagine nowadays taking a shower and washing your hair? Oh, we were thrilled to death when we found out, what the shower and that. The shower. And we stayed there about a month, and we were real happy because there was a lot of other kids that were in the same shape that we were, and we would go out and play ball at night, and play with the kids. We got to meet a lot of kids from different states that were leaving too, and we stayed there until Daddy, they called. I don't know if you know what hops are, but they were ready to harvest the hops, and they wanted somebody to kind of come out and oversee the hops. And so we were real happy that we were going to get to go, and they said we would get a house out there. Oh, we were so happy because we were used to this shower one day a week. So we went out and we went to the hop field, and we looked all around, for our house. We thought, it would be a pretty nice little house. We didn't have electricity or anything. Your light was a lantern that was about this big, and it had a little flame that was about the size of those little tiny, what do you call them, candles that you burn. And then that was the light that we had. And so finally they came and asked us, why we weren't going to our home. And Daddy said, well, we didn't know which way to go. And they said, well, you're in it right now. That's your home. Them days, they didn't have coolers, and they dug great big holes in that, and they put your potatoes and carrots and onions, and then they covered that with dirt and kept it till they needed it in the winter to sell it to the stores. And well, that was our home. So and it was just a big old dirt, that's what it was. And my mother was a very proud woman, and she had an old broom that had about 3 things they were like toothpicks, and she made us sweep that old dirt floor every day with that old broom with 3 of those little sticks. That's how proud she was. But we stayed in our little old house. It was nothing but a hole in the ground. And then when it got time for them to dig the potatoes and the carrots, so we had to leave. We had no place to go. We didn't even have a car. But my dad got acquainted with some old man, and he said, well, I have enough room that we can fix kind of like a tent house. I mean, we were really, really poor. You talk about immigrants. We were really poor. And I worked like a man your age, and I was only 5 years old. Yeah. And so they built this tent house. It was they had just little tiny, not good wood, but I don't know where they even got it. And they put this thick plastic and made this tent house for us. And we stayed in it all winter. The snow blew in underneath it, and we'd get up on our bed, and we'd have to get up and scoot it off. And when I started to school that fall, well, I was so proud of my little dress my mother had made me. They didn't call it welfare in those days. They called it the WPA. Now they've given it a fancy name, state health. But it was just, and Mom got her flower, and she made me this real cute little dress. Well, there was no electricity or anything like that. She had to use needles, and her poor fingers would just bleed, She got, and I was so proud when I went my first day, and I got my real nice dress to wear to school. And my hair was real long, and she really wasn't much of a a mother when it come to that, like, keeping it straight in the back. When she went to braid your hair and your braid hung down, she'd just pull it apart, and braid it and tie your braid up and flip back and forth. And when I went to school, I guess these people had heard this poor people was coming, and they were hiding there waiting for me. And they got a hold of my braids, and they said, "Piggy wiggy, piggy wiggy, piggy wiggy," and made fun of my dress that my poor mother had made.
Yeah.
I went the whole year, my first year like that, and we had no shoes to wear. My dad went to what now you would call like Les Schwab or someplace where they used to use inner tubes. They don't use them now. But he would go and get a big inner tube, and his chore at night was to sit by this little old light that gave about, this much light. And he would cut the rubber out of that and put in our shoes so we could go to school the next day. He didn't have a job. We just lived on our potatoes and flour, biscuits made out of water, but we made it all right. And come spring, he got a job in town. We were about 2 miles out of town. We had to walk to school and back from school every day because 75 years ago, there were no buses.
Yeah.
And we didn't think a thing of it. Sometimes it would rain and we'd lose our lunch on the way to school because our lunch sack, the bottom of your lunch sack would get wet. We never thought a thing about it. We just knew we had to do it. Well, Daddy got this job kind of in a coal. It's where they used to burn a lot of coal. They were little beef pieces, and they would burn it for the wood. And he got a job in this place in Wapato. And, oh, man, we were happy because he got enough money that we could get a little house that had 2 bedrooms. Oh, man, but we still only got to take our bath once a week.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a shower or inside toilet or anything. And come Saturday, I don't know if you saw these great big tubs. Once in a while you see them nowadays. And that's what we all got in. And they would start with the youngest kid on Saturday with our tub to take our bath. And all 6 of us, we would take our bath and wash our hair. On Saturday, we got to do that. And we stayed there a long time. Things, then started getting better, and Daddy got different jobs, but he never did get a car. We never did have a car. And of course the kids, they got bigger and, got older and all left home early. We all got married real early because we lived in these houses that we lived in, and my mom and dad, there was us 4 kids. I don't know if they decided or if it was hard times or what it was, but they decided to start a second family. And so they had 3 kids. And they were all little kids when I was started high school, and I wanted to get away from home. I was tired of keeping kids,
Yeah.
And so I went to work, and I was going to be 17. I was only 16, and I went to work in a little restaurant. It was, I don't know if you know what they call them, those cars that they use for railroads and those little things.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's what we had her restaurant in, and she just made the best chili ever. And people just come far and wide to eat her chili. And so I got a little job in there, and that's where I met Pete, my husband, at. And he had just gotten out of the service, and I lied to him about my age.
Uh-oh.
And anyhow, I went quite a little while with him, and I really liked him. And one day when he come to get, there was no money actually to go anywhere. He was actually going to Perry Trade on the GI Bill. And really what we got to do was we would get to go to town and crawl up on the hood of the car and sit up there and watch the people go. We'd get to see how they dress and how they look. That's what we got to do because we had no money, to go anywhere else.
Yeah. Just did some people watching.
But that's what we got to do. But that's all right. We thought it was wonderful. And Pete never said a word. He had his boyfriends with him, and he took me home. And when he walked me up the door, I thought he acted, kind of funny. And he said, "Well, I won't be back, seeing you anymore." And right then and there, I knew he'd found out how old I was. And so he said, "Here, I thought, that you knew that you were going to be 18, your birthday, and you kind of knew a little bit what you wanted." He said, I had no idea that you were only going to be 17 years old. This is it. And I said, well, how would you know? And well, he says, because I was talking to my sister tonight, and she was getting ready to go downtown to share her husband had died. And she was going to go out, and look at the men. And he told her, he said, I hate to see you go down there like that by yourself and be looking for somebody. And she said, well, at least I'm not robbing the cradle. And he said, turned his head and he said, well, who's robbing the cradle? Who are you talking about? Well, Joanne. And he said, well, Joanne's going to be 18, her birthday. And she said, no, I went with her brother Bill, and he's 2 years older than her. And so that's how he found out how old it was. Well, he stayed away for about 3 weeks. There was no phones or anything, and I just thought, oh, well, I really liked him, but he had one thing about him. They really liked to drink the booze, the beer and that they really liked to. And my dad, he overdrank. He was really an alcoholic, and my mother had really suffered for years. And I had made up my mind, no man going to drink like that I would marry. But I decided that I really liked him. Well, he come and got me that night, and I was so happy. I could still see myself running up. Oh. They weren't cement. They were little old wooden things, and they weren't nailed down or anything. And you'd step one, and the other one would flip up and hit, hit you in the head. And I ran in to get my little old pajamas or nightgown to go in. No fancy suitcases. I brought it out in a Safeway bag. It was my suitcase, And I was so happy he was going to take me down. He lived with his folks because he was going to school, and I got to go down and stay. And they had a shower in the toilet. Oh boy, was I ever happy that I was gonna get to go. And he was so nice. He said, well, I decided that I really care about you. I don't think I could really, really make it without you. I don't think your age makes any difference. So I thought, well, he had the nerve to tell me that. I was just going to find the nerve to say, well, I really think a lot of you too, but, the drinking stops. No drinking.
Yeah.
And so I got the nerve. I got to tell him. And so I told him, I said, I've made up my mind that I'll never go through what my poor mother has. No drinking if, you really care about me. And you know what? He quit that night, and he never, the day he passed away 2 years ago, never took a drop from that day that he passed away.
Oh, isn't that
Can you
something?
believe that? He never ever took a drop. His dad was a winemaker, and when he would make wine, well, he would have him taste it, and he tasted a little bit of it, but oh man, he was a wonderful man.
Oh, I bet. You must have been quite a catch.
He really was. And so
you.
I had a whole year to go to school, see.
Yeah.
I was a junior, going to be a senior, and so he helped me get through my senior year because my dad didn't really have a good steady job, and I think I had a sister home besides me. The other ones had grown up and left, but they decided to start the second family.
Yeah.
My one little sister was only 6 months old when I got married, and I was just plain tired keeping kids. And so my husband, poor old Pete, he helped me get to school. He was so good. And when the time come for me to graduate, he said, I just don't think we have any sense of getting married. We got $105 from the government, and we had to pay rent. He said, I just can't stand to see you go through a year, what you're going to have to go through, because times were really hard. There was no money. And so I don't know if I'd have done it or not, but I said, well, it's either we're going to get married or you can hit the road,
Yeah.
But guess what? I told him that, and he said, well, we'll get married. So I graduated. I graduated on a Thursday night, and we got married on a Friday night. I was 17 years old, and oh man, he was just such a wonderful man.
Yeah.
He finished up his electrical at Perry Trade School, and a little job came up at Goldendale, and I didn't really want to move because I had the 3 little kids. They were really just like mine, But anyhow, I knew I had to go with my husband. And we moved to Goldendale, and I know you don't know out on the road. Used to be McCoy's restaurant. They had a little restaurant. Now it's a whole bunch of cars out there. He would go to work in the morning, and I would run up there at 7 o'clock and sit in the restaurant and hope somebody come by that I knew. I was that lonely for the kids.
Yeah.
And we stayed out there. They had a little old cabin out there, and we didn't have no electricity or no water or anything. But we stayed there that year, Pete and I did. And then we bought a little, it actually was a sheep herder's shack.
Oh, yeah.
And we bought it up by the hospital. And him and I, he fixed it up. Oh, it took him years. He did all the work himself, and he'd blow the dynamite underneath the house to do the basement, and he'd turn your stuff all over in your refrigerator, and you'd have a mess the next day when you got. But he did all of the work himself, and he was so proud. It's really a nice house today up there, and we had 3 kids, and Goldendale has really, really been good to Pete and I.
Yeah.
We didn't die. He didn't die rich. We had a living that we lived on. And he helped everybody. Everybody knew Pete, and he just helped them. And I was thinking yesterday, I don't think my dad ever got a car. He moved to Goldendale behind us. 3 years later, Pete got him a job for Nickerson doing construction work, and he moved to Goldendale with the little kids, and he lived there until he passed away. And Pete passed away 2 years ago, and I'm still there. And Goldendale has just really been really good to us.
Yeah. Well, I know that you're really admired in that town.
Well, I'm a retired school cook, for one thing. I knew.
Oh, there you knew the way to get to people's heart.
Yeah, and I knew all of the kids, and I love people. We have lots of company, and my house is always open,
Yeah.
I might not like the way they come to spend the night, but I would never mistreat them if they had too much to drink to get home. Joanne would always fix them a bed. And I just love people.
Yeah.
That's just me. And we've always been that way, and my husband was the same way. And we were married 73 years.
Oh, wow. That's
73
incredible.
years. And we had ups and downs and hard times. But I'm one that would make my mind up and I'd have to change it. But when Pete made the mind up, it was made up. You didn't change it. Boy, it stayed. And I might have to wait maybe 2 days, something that the kids would do that I knew he wouldn't like. And I might have to wait 3 days till I got him in a good enough mood, to tell him what the kids had done.
Yeah.
And I'd wait until he was in a little bit better mood, and he would take it a little bit better. But he built that little old house. It was a sheep herder's house, and it's up there. The people that bought it just a couple of years ago have just really fixed it. It's really nice.
Yeah.
And it's still right up by the hospital where we lived all those years. And
I got a question. When you, since the beginning of the story, you talk about like 2 times where you got the guts to stick to your mind. Did you build on that throughout your life? And like, did you see that so effective for you? Like, were you, cause it worked for you with Pete saying,
no drinking,
like no drinking and, setting your standards. That seems like that's a problem with a lot of people these days. Like they're almost afraid or deterred to, stick to their guns and what they truly believe or know what they need.
I really think, I don't think I would have stayed with him, really. I don't really, if he would have drank, like I told you, my dad drank too much.
Yeah.
And I just saw too much. I don't, but he wasn't one that you had, if he was late coming home at night, I didn't have to worry about him in the tavern. I knew he was working. He was a wonderful man. I never had, so I don't know. I had friends that said, well, such and such would stay out and so late home and that. I didn't have that with Pete. He was just a wonderful man, and anything that you could think of, he was just actually perfect. And he could do anything. If you had a part for something that was 50 years outdated, he'd set whittle it out at night there and fix the part to fix your wash machines
Yeah.
or, or something like that. And it's just almost unbelievable, our marriage for 73 years.
Yeah.
It was just almost like the kids say, well, they don't do that nowadays. It's a fairy tale. We never fought in front of our kids, so we'd always wait to, wasn't a fight, but if we would have a disagreement, it would be just him and I that would, and take care of it, not in front of the kids.
Yeah.
But we had to work at it. I mean, it wasn't just threw out there to us.
Right.
You have to work at it.
Well, it's about like anything in life. You
But
have
I'll
to.
tell you what, I don't know what's the matter with kids today. It really hurts me. It really hurts me to see the way that when I was coming down today, Holly was telling me about another little couple that just separated this last week, and they have 2 little kids, and her folks separated when she was a junior in high school, and it just does something to you. Like holidays, we have about 50 people,
Yeah.
and I'm still cooking.
Yeah.
And we love it, They come and they just come. But when you have
Yeah.
a divorce and that happens, it isn't just leaving one another. That's really hard on
Yes,
your
it
kids.
is.
Like really, really hard on your kids like that.
What advice would you give to people that maybe struggle with those type of things? Like, what do you have? Like, was there like some mechanisms or things that you
Well,
and Pete did that
You
you
might think that I'm wrong, but I'm against counseling.
Yeah, that's okay.
I'm just against counseling. I think these young kids should spend more time together and more time with their families, together as a family, instead of you thinking you got to go here some weekend, your wife stays behind. They got to go somewhere the next, and you leave your family behind. You grow apart. You might not think you do, but
Yeah.
you do. You do. And that's what I say. We didn't do that. We went fishing. We all went.
Yeah.
Our whole family went. I think that is a great problem with our kids today. They call it, what do they call it? Getting away but you're not getting away. You're not doing your family right at all doing that. You've got to get away a few hours or something. You need to get together, and it's hard. You got to work at it.
Yeah.
It isn't just thrown to you.
Yeah. Not much is really thrown to you in life.
But
is
you
it?
have got to work at it, and your problems, for one thing, like I don't believe in you having your own bank account, me having mine. I think you should just have the one bank account. Pete and I did. That's the way we did. We never lied to one another. Maybe you wouldn't like to tell each other, but we just did it.
Yeah.
You got to do that. You can't hide that stuff. It's going to come out.
Yeah.
You've got to work with it.
Right.
And you think the grass is green on the other side. I think you're wrong. I don't know. I didn't have that to go through. Like I told you, I had a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful husband. But kids don't.
Well, I'm sure you had a wonderful husband, because it sounds like you were pretty wonderful. Well, are wonderful
and,
yourself.
He had lots of offers. He was an electrician. He was really a good electrician, of going to different Alaska and different places when the kids were growing up, which we would have really made good money. But did he take it?
No.
You know why? Because his family come first.
Yeah.
And he stayed behind with his family. And it would have been great if he would have went, but he'd have had to left to be home with the family. And he stayed not once, many times he
Yeah.
had those offers, but his family always came first. And I don't think the young kids are doing that today.
Not as much. It seems like it's coming around. I'm fortunate where I have some really good friends that do just about everything as a family these days. And I think it's coming back around, because I think people have seen probably exactly what you're talking about, where kind of loose ends unravel, and that happens with family. So what was some things that you guys would do as a family? You said you like to fish.
Oh, my land. We had a boat. We all skied. All of us water skied. And we went fishing. And we didn't have a fancy camper and that. We just had an old tent that
Yeah.
we would take, and the kids were really happy with it.
Oh, I bet.
And just a big tent. And we went to O'Sullivan Dam.
Oh, yeah.
And we'd go sometimes every weekend for weeks if it was nice, and we'd go up there and stay. And our kids was always allowed to take a kid with them. And we actually raised Jeff Erlin. He was a friend of Scott's, our boys, and he just spent the summer with us. Everywhere we went, you figured you were going to have Jeff.
Yeah.
Our kids always took kids with them. And people don't do that nowadays. It is extra work. It does.
Oh, it's worth every penny.
But you stay together as a family.
Yep.
And that's what we did. Oh, man, we did a lot of boating. And Pete and me and all of us were really, really good skiers. And we'd pack our lunch and go out to the sand dunes, and we'd stay all day. Sometimes it would be too dark practically to bring our boat back. We'd stay, and the next day we'd go. But we went as a family.
And you're talking up here at the Potholes, right?
Yeah.
Also,
Yeah.
That's still such a popular family place.
That's where we raised our kids at. But then we
great.
went. Yeah, there was wherever one went, it was always, if family could go, we'd try to work it out. We never did leave the kids behind. I don't even know if they ever had a babysitter.
Good for you.
Well, we just took our kids, but you know what? We had 73 years of marriage. When Pete died, he died 2 years ago.
Yeah.
73 years.
But when family, it seems like families back, the good families, when they were raising kids in your generation, they did take a lot of other people's kids. You're not the first person, and you won't be the last that I hear that from. What is there something about? So we just took my daughter. I have my youngest daughter full time, and she's kind of like an only child right now. Her siblings are 18 and 17, and we just took her friend to Disney World with us. And you're right. It was my favorite trip because it is so important for them, for I think kids to go with other families and understand that you're cared about too by more than just the people around you. And then there's the kids that you helped take care of. Did they have good homes too, or were some of them in bad positions?
Some of them did, and some of them didn't. Some of them did, some of them didn't. But they just loved to go with us because, like I said, we were a family. They were actually our family when we had them. I just treated them like my own kids.
Yeah.
And then we only had one all of those years that we took that we had any trouble with. And he went out, and I don't know how he got out, but he went out and let the boats loose. The boats loose out at the dock up there. That's the only trouble we had with all the kids that we took. And again, it's family.
Yeah.
And like I told you before, we had to work at it. I mean, it was hard work to take 2 or 3 extra kids, but I loved it.
It was worth it, wasn't it?
Oh, I love it. And the kids today, when I see them, they all know me. And
oh yeah.
And like I said, our house is always open. We have lots of company, and lots of the kids drop out to see us. And
yeah, it's funny because so I've never met you before, but I've heard about you, and from Casey and other people. And then when people found out what I was up to with this, Mary Pierce from Glenwood, she was like, "You got to get Joanne on there," and multiple people said that we had to get you on here. So it's amazing just how those things I don't know if you thought about this at the time, but you probably don't picture 50 years down the road how much that's going to impact those kids, and it probably changed them. And I would imagine a lot of them probably do the same for their kids because it was so rewarding and so.
It is. It really does reward you, and it's there was no selfishness in our family, no selfishness, and we raised 3 kids. I have 7 great grandkids and 6 grandkids.
Yeah,
and of course everybody knows me in Goldendale because I've lived there since 1950. So.
Yeah.
And I like to talk. So.
Yeah, that's just the
so they know me real.
Yeah, that's only a couple of years ago. How many kids do you think you've fed at the school over the years?
Oh my. I worked there for 27 years, and we fed about 280 a day, and
isn't that something? And those are probably good.
And
cooked meals.
We had, well, yeah. Oh man, Kay Kaiser.
Yeah.
She was my very best friend, and she loved my husband real well. And they always would give me a bad time. They wanted, like, if I had to fly, they really wanted me. I had to go when my daughter was sick one time, and she read to the airport with him, and they wanted me to get a real good insurance in case something happened to me, so they could live happy. That's how close. That's how close Kay was us. She was my very best friend.
Yes.
We cooked 27 years together, and we had pics of this. Some of the kids, we'd spoil some of them, and some of them we really didn't care if they even got lunch. But most of them, we'd spoil. Oh man, her and I had fun, and we cooked everything, even our bread and pizzas, and they don't do that now. It's all just a sack lunch. But it was hard work that her and I done. But she was just like me. She loved people too, and. Oh man, did we ever have fun. It was the hardest work I ever done. I didn't work when my kids was small because Pete wanted them all in school before I went. He was really pretty strict on that, me staying home until they got in school. And like I said, when they were little, they didn't have a babysitter because we went as a family.
Yeah.
Everything we did, the kids could go. It was just a family.
Yeah.
And
So when did you get into music?
well, at 6 years old, it was a gift from God. It's a gift from God. I just went to somebody's house one day, and I was 6 years old, and they had a piano, and I don't know, just sat down, and you thought I'd played. I was 50 years old, and I'd played it. It's a gift from God.
Oh, that's
And
incredible.
anything, I have to know it because I can't read notes.
Yeah.
And anything that I know, I can play. And I play a lot. I play at weddings, funerals,
Yeah.
and I love it.
Oh yeah.
And I just hope that God doesn't I'm getting arthritis really bad, that take that away, that I can't play.
Yeah.
Because, man, I really like to play
Yeah,
music.
I've heard that.
I love to play music.
It is people are not as fortunate, to be able. Some people are, just are not musically talented,
Yeah.
and they have talents in other areas. But music really is something that brings so many people together. And last night we were at a family reunion, and we got together. I was with my biological father's side of the family, and my grandpa John. I don't know if you ever knew John Parker. He lived in Granger and played music all over, but he played guitar, and he died when I was young. And boy, that family, kind of like yours, where you get together, and all of a sudden guitars start coming out of the woodwork, and it is just something. It's so fun to bring music into a family or an event, and how it brings people
And
together.
when Casey comes, he invites everybody to come to Grandma. Grandma, I'd love to have you come to Grandma's house. You never know when you go down to eat if you're going to have 1 or 15,
Yeah.
if Casey Timmer is there. And boy, I'll tell you, we play music. He can hardly use his fingers when he goes home because he really comes down on his guitar when he comes to Granny's
Oh
house.
yeah.
And he don't play the music with me like he does when he's home because I've been in his studio that he's got at his house. I play Okie Stompin' wild music.
Yeah.
But he don't play that at his house. He plays different music. But he loved, oh man, does he ever love. But it was just a gift that was given to me by God. And I have people want me to teach them. Well, how can you teach them?
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't read a note.
Isn't that something?
I can't play a piano that's out of tune because you take your ear and you go, and I've even had him really get on me with me thinking I didn't want to help him. But I can't read a note, and I have to know the song. But if I know it, I can play. I play solely by ear. I play at church on Sunday, and I'm 93 years old, and I play the piano, and I can't tell you. It's just a gift.
Yeah.
It's just a gift.
And it's what's nice is it's a gift that you give to so many other people.
Yeah, and boy, do I ever love to play. They don't need to ask Joanne twice because I will play. I play at Christmas time, at school when they have the parties for the
Yeah.
kids, and I hope I don't lose that. Like I said, my arthritis is really getting bad, and Casey keeps telling me to be sure and play.
Practice.
That
keep
I
it.
don't. Yeah, and I do. I used to play for Pete every night. He'd get in his chair in there and sit, and I'd play him a couple songs before I went to bed, and he loved my music too. And it's different than playing with notes.
Yeah.
Completely different.
Yeah.
Because it's by ear, and it just comes. This ear goes to that ear, and there you go.
Yeah. Sorry. Do you have a favorite memory of playing that is there one that stands out, or
Oh no,
no?
I just play like jambalaya and Okie from Muskogee. The grandkids,
Yeah.
they love those. I'll say, well, what do you want to hear? And so when we have the reunion, we go around my big front room, and they each one give you their song, and Grandma plays their song, and pretty soon you've pretty well went through your songs, that the kids like. And
Yeah.
and I have a piano sitting here, and then I have, I guess you call it a fun machine sitting over here. And I'll play one day and one the next day, and we have lots of music.
Yeah. What advice would you give to like a kid or even an adult that wants to pick up an instrument? What importance have you, if you were to like sum it together, what importance has that music played?
Well, number one, you've got to want to do it.
Yeah.
You have got to want to do it, because if you don't know anything about music, you actually don't have anything to start on. So you have got to have it that you want, to really learn to do it. And like I said, I can't read notes, but I've heard it's pretty hard.
Yeah.
And if you're not really that interested in it, what would you have to go on? To go
Right.
take a lesson and practice. You have got to be interested and really like your music.
Yeah. And it takes
I
work.
tried to take lessons, but I played the song through once and got it in my ear, and then guess what? I played it by ear and messed it up because there's a lot of difference, and so they kicked me out of taking my lessons. But I wished I could have took lessons. Yeah,
Yeah.
They just told me not to come back because it was just a simple little song, and I played it through a couple times and missed a couple notes that wasn't right to the teacher, and played it by ear then because I could do it and I loved it, and they told me
Yeah.
not to come back, so I never did get any lessons. But I think it has to really come from your heart, and you've really got to be interested. Like a lot of people make their kids take the music, they don't want to take it, but it's just important that you learn to play a little bit, and you just look around at those kids. They don't stay with it, number
Yeah.
one. And number two, it's kind of like a hard job. They don't want to do it,
Yeah.
because they're not interested.
Yeah.
So I really think it has to come within that you've got to want to do it,
Yeah.
or you're not going to do it.
Yep. I would agree with that.
It just isn't going to work out.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have gotten a little bit so I could at least find, what do they call it, middle C or something like that. But I play slowly by ear. I can't read a note.
Oh, it's incredible.
I cannot read a note.
So in all those years living in Goldendale, did you volunteer? I know volunteering was pretty popular, in these communities like that. Was there
yeah.
anything that you were involved in or that you
Well,
really
no,
enjoyed?
just my music, and then of course when the kids were in like Boy Scouts and things,
Yeah.
and things like that I do, and then I've always helped at my church, like when they have their summer Bible studies and all of that.
Yeah.
And I always play when I'm needed, and even as old as it thrills me when they ask me if the main person plays can't make it. It really thrills me to get up there, and play.
Yeah.
And
So going on a gift from God that I would like to, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but you had a little bit of a scare recently, and it was a miracle, wasn't it? Would you mind telling us about that? Or
it was, it just happened so fast. I was just actually standing up when it happened, and they said I died. That's what they all say, that I died for a few minutes and I come back. And But I'll tell you, the few minutes that I was unconscious, it they always tell you how wonderful heaven is in that. It wasn't a wonderful thing for me to look at those few minutes, that I was out.
Yeah.
But I came back too. I don't know how long that I was. They said I died and come back. Oh, yeah, it scared my family to death.
Yeah.
It scared my family to death.
And then all of a sudden you just
I just popped out.
bounce back.
Yeah, just like where you and I are talking.
Yeah.
I was just right back by where we stopped at. Isn't that a miracle? It was a miracle from God.
Oh yeah, I remember boy Casey, and I'm sure the other grandkids were. I mean, I'm sure your whole family and all your friends were so worried. But boy, Casey was worried. And I was kind of watching it. He's such a sentimental person. I wonder where he gets that from.
Boy, I'll tell you, he.
I wonder. I just think so. People that are watching this, they got to look Casey up because he's a human jukebox, and I wonder if he has that same gift. Do you know? Because when we were at the fair, I would just like, Casey, play this song. He's like, okay. And he just played it.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
just
he
incredible.
He has the same gift I have, yeah.
That's incredible.
And now he's playing the piano. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Yeah. Oh, yeah, he has.
Was there, that's just amazing.
His dad, Casey can kind of play a little bit by ear. His dad was kind of like, what's that guy, what was his name that played,
Liberace?
Yeah, so
Liberace
fancy. That's the way his dad plays. But beautiful, his dad's a beautiful pianist. But I don't think Casey got it from him. I think he got it from Grandma. I think he got it from me.
I think so too.
Because he has played ever since he's that high.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's played ever since he's that high. And he really likes his grandma. Oh, man, he really likes his grandma. I don't know what he'll do when something happens to him. Because I'm, 93 years old.
Well, that's one thing I know him and Holly and everybody's really excited to have you here because I really appreciate you coming to do this because they will be able to look at this forever.
They wanted me to come so bad. They said, Grandma, there's people like you, but they don't have all of their marbles to tell them. And Grandma, you were in such good shape. And they just went, I said, well, I'd love to do it. I was supposed to do it at the school. They were studying that history about the drought and all of that. And they wanted me to come and have all of the fifth grade kids come in one room and have me go and tell them. But something happened at school ended, and Joanne didn't get to go and tell them the story. Yeah.
Well, they're missing out.
They are so thrilled that Grandma Holly, she brought me. She's so thrilled that Grandma came.
Oh, yeah, me too. So when I want to go back actually to the drought, was there life lessons that you could sum up or things that stories or how would you summarize like things that you learned through that period of time of being so poor, having so little that like what values did you think you learned from that you've instilled in the rest of your family and the people around you?
Well, one thing we learned was to be thankful for what we had, which was nothing. Be thankful for it. It was nothing, but to be thankful for it. And it made us, I think that made our family. It made us grow, together. Because I'm telling you, we didn't have nothing.
Yeah.
And there was just our family. And we were just like, would you call it a group? We were just kind of together in that little group. And you actually didn't know when you went to bed that night if you were going to be there the next morning. You were really close to your brothers and your sisters. And I think that's one thing that instilled in us was caring about one another and forgetting ourselves. Yeah. I really do. And putting somebody else, there wasn't anybody that was any poorer than we were. And have you ever thought about going someplace and having kids laugh at you the way you were dressed? And I had to go to school and went through it day after day. But I think that being like we were taught us, boy, you really appreciated something when you got something. And the first year Pete and I were married, we didn't ask for nothing because we didn't have any money. There was nothing to ask for, but we had one another.
Yeah.
And you just kind of grow, and you just kind of grow together.
Yeah.
As one. You do.
Yeah.
You just kind of grow together, but like I told you, you got to work at it. It isn't just handed out. We worked at it as a family, and there was no fighting. We weren't allowed to fight.
Yeah.
No fighting. And one thing I think that has ruined our homes is television. When we at our house had meals, if the TV was on, it went off. Everybody come to the table to eat. If you were pouting and you didn't want to eat, you still come and sit in your place, sit there while the rest ate. And I think TV, I really do.
Yeah.
I think that has really, really been hard on families. My husband was he was really hard on that, making you come to the family to eat.
Good for him.
But I think that being poor like that, it didn't hurt us at all. It brought us together. It brought us together as a family.
And that's part of my intentions here is where I was really fortunate to be able to spend, being from Glenwood, which you're familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there was a lot more older people than there was younger people growing up. And so we spent a lot of time helping them, putting the hay in, it's going to rain, run around the valley and put all the hay in. And boy, at the end of the day, you'd get some of the best stories sitting on those hay bales with we'll call them the old timers, if that's all right. And so I kind of learned from that, like you're not a victim unless you make yourself a victim. And
You're right.
And that's the idea of this, is to get, I think so much of these generations, and mine included in that, we're missing out on those perspectives because we have it so good. Like what do they say now? Like the food we have in our fridge 100 years ago, a king would have died to have had, and here we just have it at our disposal all the time, and we waste it. And
we didn't even know what an ice chest was. They didn't have them.
Yeah.
They didn't have, no electricity, things like that. And you just learn to grow together. I mean, you help one another. You're a family. You really are. You're really a family. There was no such thing as this fighting and that. If people needed you to come do something, you went and done it.
Yeah.
You didn't expect pay from it either.
Yeah. The reward, the reward was in helping others.
Yeah, in helping others. You didn't expect money out of it. Now you can't even get anybody to work.
Yeah.
No, there was, it was just, but I really do think TV, I think it's had a great to do with our families.
Yeah. I would agree with that. I think it's within moderation. One thing where I was lucky was we didn't watch a lot of TV because we were lucky enough to be outside, and and I was fortunate where we lived in an area where you could just go play outside. And I think that's something that's missing, is people really need to get out and get the kids down to the park.
Too, yeah.
And,
Play ball. We played ball.
Play ball, yeah. Did you? That's what I was going to ask. Did you play any sports?
No, they didn't have that many sports when I was that younger.
Yeah, that's another thing we're lucky.
See, they've
now.
started all of that. You're talking like about 75. They didn't have no sports at all. But boy, was a good baseball player.
Yeah,
I could really throw that ball and play baseball because, that's what we did.
Yeah,
it was just life was completely different than it is today. And we had a good life. We were really, really poor, but we really, really had a good life because we had a good family. That's just that growing together and being together. To me, you've got to have that family. You've got to have them.
Yeah.
That's just all there is to it.
And I like that. I feel like when you say family, you mean friends too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's important too. And we try to live by that. We're really just, it takes a community to raise kids, and it takes, somebody told me once, we're all just walking each other home. We're all in this together, so we might as well be a family and take care of each other.
Kids are so disrespectful all today. There's no respect.
Yeah.
There's just no respect. I just don't. I worry about it. The kids are always saying, "No, Grandma, don't worry," because see, Holly's little girl just turned 15. She just got her driver's permit Friday. and she's 15, and she's such a nice little girl. And I worry about them.
Yeah. What would you tell the kids if you could? Or do you like what advice would you give them? Or do you have was there ever a time where you were disrespectful or somebody was disrespectful to you that really hit home that you can remember? Well, minus the kids harassing you at school.
Really not with my own family that Pete and I have. But we have an adopted son. He was 5 months old when we got him. And he has been a handful, And I would make any kind of advice we gave him. I don't think it would help. It just, I don't know, to tell you the truth. I caution him about the drugs and the pre-sex. I mean, it's getting so now that there's no such thing as trying to train your kids good. They're teaching them it's just right. You want to do it, do it.
Yeah.
It's your own life. And I don't know.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to listen to you. Because everybody's doing it and they're going to do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And it really bothers me. I'm old. I know that. I'm almost 100 years. I'm almost 100 years old. But it still really bothers me with the morals. And I'm an old lady, but it just, it's just, I don't know. It just has changed. It's just completely different than it was when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Just completely different. It was just completely different. We were taught that, I told you that we took the baths in the old big old bathtubs. And we were taught that if we dried on my brother's towel, we'd get pregnant. That's how we were taught. That was a sex life at our house. We'd dry on his towel. That was sex wasn't a thing that was ever mentioned in your house. And times have just changed.
Yeah.
Sometimes I get embarrassed with my own grandkids talking.
Oh yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, it's weird how things have it makes you I wish I mean we'll never figure it out, but it makes you wonder why all these societal norms change. I was gonna go back to, you were talking about your family. You guys didn't have much. Were you lucky enough that your family stayed healthy through that? Like, did all your siblings and everybody do fairly well through like the polio time and all that stuff? And that was really fortunate back then.
Yeah, we had very little sickness in our family. Very, very little sickness with both the kids. And I don't think Pete went to the doctor a dozen times. We were never sick. No. Mm-mm.
Yeah. Just like hard, makes you wonder how or why. Like,
but oh my, that was hard. Could I do it today? I don't know. I don't know if I could do it. It was so bad that we've got modernization now, all of this modern, stuff. See, we didn't have none of that back there. There was no electricity it was, what do you call it?
Do you remember your first phone call?
No.
No.
I never had a phone till after I was married.
Yeah.
And Pete and I never had one then. I don't think I think it was quite a while before him and I had one.
Yeah.
No.
When you,
I'm against the cell phones. I'm definitely against.
Oh, you are? My grandma calls them button boxes.
I'm against them because when I go visit with you, I want to visit.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit there and wait for you to answer my question and be on your box talking.
Yeah.
And everybody has them, and I guess I should get one and try to use them. But no, I don't think kids should have those.
Yeah.
They take them to school and everything else.
It depends on what I would say. I held off a little while with my daughter, but what I've kind of used it as a tool for her to like learn to communicate and be responsible, about communicating, like, okay, where are you? When are you doing this? And she kind of schedules on it and she takes notes. And I think it's important, since we're probably not going to go backwards in society with no phones, but I do think it's really important to teach kids how to use them in a successful, efficient, respectful way.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what we need to do with anything as time, goes on. Yeah, I've gone back and forth with myself with that, and I think I'm pretty fortunate where she's doing a pretty good job with it. But yeah, it's
No,
definitely
I'm
how you
against
use
them.
them.
Everybody has them, but
Yeah,
and even when you go visit older people, they have them. But like I said, it makes me mad when I'm talking to you, waiting for you to answer me, and look over and hear hear them. Go.
yeah.
But everybody has them, I guess. So
Is there an invention that you remember helping you out a lot? Like, was there anything that stuck with you that when it came out new, like well, we know it wasn't the TV, but like the microwave, or was there something that was
well,
like
no,
monumental to you?
the first thing that really came out was the wash machines.
Yeah,
That was the wash machine. The microwave that didn't bother me, and I'm not a TV person.
yeah,
But the wash machine was something that was, really because I told you how we had to go through
yeah,
those old ringers and the clothes would stick together and we'd have to shake them out when we went to iron them with our iron. And don't think we didn't have a lot of burns from our brick and iron our
yeah,
clothes because we did. Us kids had a lot of burns from that, but everybody did. Couldn't do any better. And we'd be so cold at night that poor old daddy'd get up and fix a brick and put it at our feet
yeah,
and we'd cry till we could go to sleep. And he did the best he could. There
Yeah.
wasn't nothing he could do, you know. There
yeah.
just wasn't nothing he could do, but he'd get up and fix the old brick for us, and it'd really warm your feet up good.
Yeah, I bet. When inventions like the washing machine came along, it seems like to me that you were probably the type of family that used anything that saved you time to give you more time with your family.
Yeah,
Would you say that
yeah,
that's
yeah.
it seems like kind of inventions back then like when they came along, they allowed you to spend more time with your family, or the value, you could get that kind of value out of it, where it seems now we see a lot of these inventions almost pull you away from your family, like you've talked about with the television and the
Yeah.
cell phones. And I never really thought about that until
But one thing I'll
you were talking
say,
through that.
we always read to our kids before they went to bed at night. They'd get might not be a long, it might even be one we'd make up out of our head, but they would get a little reading and a little hug to tuck our little kids in. And that's we just done it. It might be Pete do the one kid, me do the other one, but it was just a natural thing that we just people don't do that nowadays.
Yeah.
It's just sad. I think it's familyness together. I think you should do things that include your family, because you do something that you really like by yourself, or you get away from your family. Next time you're going to make it a half a day longer so you can stay that extra half a day.
Yeah.
And that's just what I think.
Yeah.
Have that half a day that and pretty soon it just grows into you don't care. You just should do your thing and let your family go.
Right. And I love hearing you keep continuing to say family, because when you get up to your age, I mean, we know your family's important, but how everybody's hopefully gets to grow old, and it seems in the towards the later in life, your family's the most important thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there is to be there for you, because you're there for each other if times are tough, or you're there for the good times.
Yeah.
And I think about how important, I think people get caught up in, you're right, in these distractions out of family, and then maybe you
They
take
don't
it
have
too
time
far,
for
and
you.
maybe you lose your family though, and then all of a sudden you grow old, lonely, or something like that. It's so important.
Well, I've got Holly. She has a sister, Heather. I don't know if you know Heather.
Yep, I've met her.
And they help Grandma because I can't see anymore. And they do write my checks. And then I have this one son that he lives right next door to me. He's 16. He's never been married. And I wouldn't be staying by myself if I didn't have poor old Tim there. And I know he gets mad at me because he has his yard and my yard.
Yeah.
But you know what? He never complains. He just, I couldn't stay by myself if I didn't have Heather and Holly and Tim. That's my son, is really stepped up to the plate. He wasn't that good when his dad was alive, but he knows if I'm going to stay out there, he has to help Mother. And he's just been stepped up to the plate and did so good to help me.
Yeah.
And there you go again. It's togetherness, your family.
And I imagine they were there for you. I mean, for when you lost your husband. I
Oh,
mean, how important was it then?
yeah, they were. Do you know that every one of them was there? It was just like God sent them that morning. Every one of them was there when Pete died. Died about 10:30 in the morning. It was just like God sent them. He hadn't even hardly been sick but about a week.
Yeah.
He just looked up at me and gave me a big smile, and they don't really know what he really passed away from. They called it congestive heart failure. Maybe that's what it was. I never knew that he had heart trouble, but that's what they had on his death certificate. But just gave us a big smile and just left
Yeah.
us.
It's
They were all there, every one of the kids.
and so looking back on it, like I love how you praise him so much and your family.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Does that, because we're all going to lose people, and we all do, throughout our life. Do you feel that because your life was so full that you look back with appreciation on it? Like, I mean, is that you seem so joy, fulfilled? I love.
Well,
I love
actually, God is my rock, really, to tell you the truth. And just like it's just like a brother. I don't think I could make it without him.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing.
And I call him my brother because he's been so good to me. So good to me. And had never even been sick till I had this spell that you're talking about. Is that something? And as old as I am, it's just amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it just wasn't your time.
I got something I still got to fulfill. I don't know what it is, but I got something that I've got to do. And
Is there anything you want to do? Do you have? I mean, everybody talks about the infamous bucket list that everybody has.
no,
Do you have anything,
there
or have you
really
been able
isn't.
to?
No, I've taken several trips. I've been to Hawaii and different places. No, I don't really have any place I'd want to go. If I did, the grandkids, I think, would see that I got to go because I can still get around pretty good.
Oh yeah, I would say so.
I can get around pretty good, and
It's
I don't
it's
hardly,
everybody else probably trying to keep up.
I don't hardly use the cane. But when I go out, they want me to take it because they're afraid, I'll hit a little. I don't hardly use it at home and that, and I stay by myself, and I cook for my son every day, and.
Yeah. Well, it's good to have that cane in case you need to bop somebody
Yeah.
or keep people in check. I think that's what they talk about in, they like in the Bible. Some people, with the analogy of the shepherd's hook, it was, the hook part was to pull his sheep back in, and then the end was to, tap him into place if he needed
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
I wished I could find. I wanted to have somebody help me find it before I came down today. In the Bible, I wanted to see it where it says, "Be good to your mother and father, and you will live a long, healthy life." It's in the Bible, but I couldn't get anybody to help me. I can't read in my Bible anymore,
Well-
and I couldn't get anybody to help me find that scripture in the Bible. And
We'll find it for you, and we can post it on this if you'd like.
And it says, "Be good to thy mother and thy father,
Okay.
and you will have a long, healthy life."
Yeah, we'll make sure and get that put in this video for you. So you said you traveled to some trips. Is there a favorite place that you went that you would recommend everybody go to?
I would. You probably wouldn't. Branson, Missouri.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, that's where I think you should go. Yeah, I've been there 3 times.
yeah,
I like that really. I didn't like Hawaii. Pete loved it, but there's too much traffic over there for Joanne. I didn't like that. He loved it.
yeah.
And I can't say that I liked Arizona, but I can't see what people really see about it. We went, my daughter and her husband have a timeshare there, and we went several times with them. And I can't say that I would want to retire down there.
Yeah.
No.
What was it about Branson? Was it the music? Or?
It was the music, and it was people like me
Yeah.
that went to the music things and that. And
Yeah.
yeah, I love Branson. I went 3 times. I'd like to go again.
Yeah.
I really like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to go there too. You're not the first person that's told me to go to
Yeah.
Branson.
Yeah, it's really, oh, I just loved it. But as far as Hawaii, I do feel bad that I didn't go with my husband because he wanted to go again. And we could have went. There was no excuse. He wasn't sick. He could have walked. And I wouldn't go with him. Now I feel terrible that I didn't go because I just didn't like.
Yeah.
It's just nothing but a tourist town to me. But he liked it. He'd get up and sit on our little. We had a little old hole about this big up there with a little table and instant coffee.
Yeah.
And he'd get up and watch the boats go out real early in the morning, sit out there by himself. He really liked that. And I never went with him again. I went 3 times because my girlfriend had a daughter that was in the service and she was stationed over there. And I went, but he, oh man, he really liked Hawaii.
Yeah.
He really liked Hawaii. But Branson's my favorite.
I like that. I could see that.
Oh, it's wonderful. Just wonderful.
Yeah. When you, so when you guys would travel after your kids grew up, did you guys, was there, what were things that you and Pete did after the kids grew up? Was there things that you guys did, or did you go through the empty nester
type? We did the trip, like going to we looked up some of my old family back in Oklahoma. And then he's from South Dakota, and we spent time back there running around. And we usually tried to take another couple with us because it was more fun for 4 of us to go.
Yeah.
That's what we did, a lot of that because he liked that. I'm not into that, but we did go to cemeteries and look. But I went with him because he wanted to go, and we went a lot after he retired. I had a brother that had a 5th wheel, and he just loved to take us. Well, he was one of my little ones that was born, after I got married, and. Like I told you, he was just like, his name was Doug Green. You might have heard it from him from Goldendale. He had a son, Jamie, that might have been about your age. But anyhow, he just loved to take us. And we just went around. And then we went we went to lots of places.
Yeah.
We've been to New York. And I mean, just lots, just did things that we didn't do when the kids were littler.
Yeah.
We didn't do like that. Like I told you, most of our summers when we had the kids was O'Sullivan. Boy, we'd go on Friday night every weekend and go on Friday night and go to O'Sullivan. And, man, we loved. But you know what? We were up there just a few years ago. My little brother Doug come and took Pete and I up there to show us what it's all. They've got a big state park there now. It isn't anything like it was 75 years ago. It's just, I don't even think I'd even care to go there. They built little cabins, and it wasn't like it was when we went.
Yeah.
The kids could run around. They had a real nice park there, and now it's all, boy, you got to be, the gate's locked. You can't go in and out a certain time at night. Oh, our kids would run around, go up and play pool up at the little store. You can't do that now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's it's funny because my daughter's older brother, his stepmom, her family owns or they did own. I think they had it for sale. They own the RV park there.
Oh,
and so they do some running around up there. And we used to. Yeah, I know what you mean. It's going on those trips is so important for kids too. It's funny how kids just learn. They learned so much in that running around loose. You get into a little bit of trouble, or and so gets hurt, or so threw something at somebody, and you just learn so much in those moments when you're out, screwing around as a kid.
Yeah, and they had fun. We only had the one thing was the night the kid went and turned the boats loose, and all of the kids we took lots of kids.
Yeah,
and how he got out. I was a pretty good checker. I'd get up, and check the kids, and because we had one tent and the kids had another one, and I would get up and do the check. One night I had my daughter. She was about 15, and she was gone out of her bed, and I had to walk up to where the boat, and the boys that worked there had made a date with her to come up there when they were cleaning up there, and she snuck out and got up there about midnight. And I had to go up there and get her, like to scare those kids to death. Boy, they were doing their work. They were out there picking up the papers and that was left at the dock. And Boy, when Joanne got up there about 1 o'clock in the morning, I let out a screech. Pam was sitting there on this thing talking. Boy, they were down in the water. I scared them to death, you know. And we had her sneak out one night, and then we had that kid that went and did that with the boats. But we took lots of kids, and that's the only two that we had any trouble.
Yeah.
Was my daughter and this other. Oh, we had lots. Oh, man, we had fun. Of course, see, Pete and I were a lot younger. We could you do just about what the kids could do, you know.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of difference.
Yeah.
Boy, we could all of us could ski backwards, and we had a little boat, 14-foot boat, and oh man, it was in the water constantly as soon as it got daylight till dark. And it wasn't a fancy boat, but it was good enough for us. And
Could you ever, in your wildest dreams when you were a kid, down, because this is the drought you're talking about, it's the Dust Bowl, right? The Oklahoma Dust Bowl. To go from the Dust Bowl and then here you are raising your kids out on the water skiing.
No.
Like when you were out water skiing, did you ever have those reflections where you'd sit there and be like, I can't believe that I'm here?
Well, actually, I don't think I did. I think I was too young.
Yeah.
Because I was only 5. I was going to turn 6 in the fall.
Yeah.
And I don't think I did.
Yeah. What I was going to ask you, what was a main life event that you remember? Like, was there a big, not, like outside of your own family, like, there was the, like the JFK assassination, landing on the moon. Was there ever something outside that occurred in the world that really impacted you or you remember that you thought was really important?
I don't think me, maybe my husband, but I'm not into that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't think Pete might have, but not me. He used to study a lot of that and read about it, but I don't think Joanne did.
Yeah, it seems like you were pretty devoted into your family and what was going on right in front of you. And that's such that's another gift, like to
I was
to be able to be absorbed in your
mother, and my husband was a real good. We had a real good relationship.
Did you get that from your parents?
No, my dad, I told you, drank terrible.
Right. I guess, or your mother, or was it something that you just
we had to work at it. For sure, we got married. There was just the two of us. We were so poor that I told you we'd sit on the car and watch the people. That's all we could do. We didn't have refrigerators or anything to even keep milk or anything.
Yeah.
I don't think we ate breakfast in that. And there was just him and I. My mom and dad had these 3 little kids. They couldn't help you.
Yeah.
And his folks were pretty old. They lived in Toppenish, and they were pretty old, and they were too old to work. They couldn't help us, and there was just the two of us. And we just you just kind of grew together as one. You didn't have nothing.
Yeah.
You didn't ask for nothing because there was nothing to get.
Yeah.
And he never mistreated me because I couldn't cook something because I didn't have it to cook. And I never mistreated his because I couldn't get something because he didn't have any money. There was none to have.
Yeah.
Times are hard. And we knew that when we got married. And I think that's what just, bonded us together. It was, and I've had people tell us that, it's just an amazing the way that Pete, and your life turned out all of those years that you stayed together.
Yeah.
Of course, people didn't separate in them days like they do now.
Right.
You worked your problems out. And
what do you remember a compliment? Was there ever a compliment that was given to you, maybe by Pete or by somebody that you've never forgotten?
I don't really think so. When I was younger, when Pete got older, he wasn't what do you call a lover boy, or what do you call it? He wasn't
a smoozer.
He wasn't like that.
Yeah.
But he had 2 little fingers, and as he got older, he would every night when he would go to bed, he'd tap me with those 2 little fingers and tell me, I really love you. I don't know what would have happened to you if you hadn't come into my life, because I told you he was wild.
Yeah.
And and I've had him tell me that just and then the older years, he would tell me, and he said, I just don't know what would have happened to me if you hadn't come into my life. But
yeah. sometimes people have such a hard time giving compliments these days,
I
and I
think
don't.
that might have been him, yeah.
And
He wasn't one like that. Like our birthdays were on the same day. You hardly ever hear that.
oh,
But his birthday and mine both were August the 6th. He was 5 years older than me, but they were August the 6th. So I know that he didn't forget my birthday because they were on
Yeah.
the same day. But I can't remember. I'm 73 years of marriage. I don't think he ever bought me a birthday present.
yeah,
And Christmas was about the same. He wasn't like that.
yeah,
He just wasn't like that. If you wanted something, he wanted you to go get it.
yeah,
He just, that's the type of man he was. He wasn't.
yeah. You probably didn't ask for much either, did you?
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I could.
But he wasn't one that's, like I told you, our birthdays were the same day. I know
Yeah.
he didn't forget it. And he was 5 years older than me. And
Yeah. So he was 96.
96 when he died.
Wow.
96
What a
years old when he
run.
died. Hmm.
Good for him.
And I could count on my hand how many times he went to the doctor. He was never sick or
Yeah.
96 years old.
And he was a man of faith too, I imagine.
Yeah.
Pretty
mhm.
strong.
We both were. Yeah.
Yeah.
mhm.
That's great.
And yeah, and you know what? He wasn't bent over. It was amazing.
Yeah.
He just was as straight as could be, and he'd wear his cowboy hat, and he didn't look his age at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was 96 years old.
Before you would get out, I really want to thank you for coming.
Oh, I want to
And-
thank you for having me. It was
Yeah.
wonderful.
I love hearing about you and reading about you from your grandkids on social media. If there's one thing about the social media, it does allow people to see
Yeah.
other people's families and what's going on with them. And I know that you're really admired by a lot of people, and I
Okay.
can see why. Now that I've spent some time with you, I really appreciate you giving
Yeah,
us
I'm
so
glad
much.
that I had a chance to come. And Casey, he said, I will be waiting for you to call me. I think he's 2 hours ahead of Grandma.
Yeah.
He was so excited. He called me early this morning. He said, well, you're going to go, aren't you? And I said, yes, I told you I'd go, and I'm going to go. Oh, he said, oh, Grandma, he said, you're just going to love my friend. You're just going to love my friend.
Oh, I appreciate
And,
that a
oh,
lot.
You're just going to love my friend. And, oh, Casey, he is something else.
Yes, he is. I send him. I try to every year. If I get a deer when I'm hunting, I try and send him jerky over there because
Oh.
we got just a little piece of home. I know how much he admires home, and now I see where he gets it. And a lot of your family
Well,
is
he
so
would
sweet.
come. You won't believe this. He started at the age of about 12 years old. He would come. They lived in Spokane. And I shouldn't say this, but his mother, my daughter, was pretty ritzy. And he would come down to our place and stay. The day school was out, we would go to Othello and meet them. Casey would come, and he would stay until the day that school started in Spokane. Never go home. He loved Pete and me and staying in Goldendale. And he might take one shower a month. That was just Casey.
Yeah.
And the girls lived next door, Heather and Holly, and they had a little outside show house there at Goldendale. And Patty would get ready to take him, and she'd call me up, and she'd say, that's the girl's mother, Joanne. If Casey's going to go with us tonight, he has to take a shower. But he would just stay with Pete, my husband, out in the old garage, and he'd just work all summer long.
Yeah.
Till he graduated, all summer.
Oh,
He was 12 years old when he started, and he would cry when he had to go home.
yeah,
He just and he still just loves Goldendale.
yeah,
He just loves, and he hopes to be back when little Elmer starts school, and he's 2.
yeah,
And maybe he will.
yeah. That would be
Because
nice.
what he does, he tells me that he can do anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have to be in Nashville. So he's hoping he got a little bit different, I don't know what it is, a little bit different job this year.
Yeah,
And he's just hoping to keep going. And that's his plans, is to come back and start little Elmer to Goldendale.
Well, I hope people that get a chance to watch this, I hope that if Casey comes up and plays at the fair, because he wants to come back and play at the
Yeah,
fair, I know again. But also if people see this in Nashville or in that area, they definitely should go try and find Casey
Yeah,
Timber.
they
If he's
should,
playing
yeah,
music, he's
Yeah.
amazingly talented, and now we know where he gets it from. So You'll have
Yeah,
to,
he is quite a kid. I'll tell you, he
Yeah.
is quite a kid. Yeah.
it kind of makes you think like maybe every time he's getting applauded at one of his shows, they're kind of applauding Grammy right there too, a little bit.
Yeah, I went down and seen
Yeah.
him when the baby was born, and of course I had to go to one of his things, and it was really nice. He had a special place for his old grandma, and of course he loves the comedian. He's quite a comedian.
Oh yeah.
And he gets up there to start out. And of course, the old grandma, she had to stand up, and he wanted everybody to see I was 91 then, had to see his 90-year-old grandma to come all the way from the state of Washington to see his baby. You know, he put on quite a show. And then every once in a while during his show, he'd say something about, oh, I'm just so glad that my grandma could come, you know.
Yeah.
And he's quite a kid. He is. I don't know another kid like him. You know, we had him. And do you remember Bart Fouts? Did you know Bart?
Nope.
That was his best friend that would come and stay with him at our house, and we'd have him all summer. I just knew I was going to have Bart too. He was there with Casey, and they both turned out to be really good. Casey's really a nice boy, and he has such a soft heart.
Yeah.
He really has a soft heart.
Yeah. I can see why.
And he has a wonderful wife. Oh, he has a very, very nice wife.
I was thinking, what do you think about maybe, that digital piano I have upstairs? One of the keys is a little bit louder.
Well, what is a digital?
It's weighted keys, but it's electric. But I was thinking maybe if you played something, I could maybe record it with my phone, and then we can add it to this.
What would I play?
Whatever you want to play.
I mean,
If you would enjoy that, we'd enjoy it.
yeah, I
If
would.
not-
Yeah, that'd be great. Mm-hmm.
Well, I just want to say thank you, and
Yeah.
let's see if
I'm
we
glad
can.
I got to come.
Yeah.
The kids was thinking. They said, we were going to eat some ice cream before we came out here, and Holly says, "Oh, Grandma, I don't know if you ought to eat that, or it might give you the diarrhea." I said, "Honey, I'm not nervous. I'm used to talking to people." I said, "I love people. You know that." Oh, she said, "I know you'll just do a great job."
Oh yeah, I'm sure people are going to be so excited to
Yeah.
listen to this.
Yes, I'm 93 years old, and I live by myself, and
And you've what a great life.
I've had a great life, you know.
Yeah.
I thank God every night for giving me breath one more day, and I hope I get another day, and I'm still going.
Well, maybe we can get you in here again. We'll think of some.
It's been wonderful. Yeah, I will try to go up there and see if I can play you a little bit.
All right. Well, let's give it a shot.